Let's keep it here. Who else would it be? This is the meme coin video, specifically cat meme coins. We're going to talk about seven here, I think, possibly eight. I got a list that's different than the watch list here on my notebook, so we'll take a look at this. I'm not really going to kind of delay. Sorry, I'm messing with my headphones. Delay any kind of thing. There's no introduction. I do have a Patreon if you want to check that out. Which also links to Discord. I do about 20 videos per week for watch list, and I do things like this. So go ahead and check that out. The link in my bio, and I'll try to link it in the thread because this is going to be an X Twitter exclusive kind of thing. So we will get started here. So the reason I wanted to do this is because, one, I really think meme coins are actually waking up as a whole. Now, there's going to be some outliers that are not in the meme coin category. I think like Aave and stuff like that. But as far as meme coins as a whole, I think they're waking up a little bit. I don't want to say premature, but they're kind of leading the pack, I guess, so to speak. So, but I wanted to cover cat coins in particular because I think they're doing pretty well, and so we'll talk about that. Actually, I actually forgot about Bonk. I'm going to add Bonk. I'm not sure if it's a cat or not, so we are going to cover it anyway. So we'll add Bonk on the list. We'll cover it last. So let's go ahead and go with PopCat first. Now, as far as market caps go, PopCat is pretty big. I think. I'm not sure if Bonk is counted as a cap. Like I said, we'll add it. And I say that because Bonk has a higher market cap than PopCat. But one thing I like about PopCat here is that on the weekly, we just crossed the A trend. This is very significant to me. I really like this a lot. I think my top three favorite, meme coins right now are Bongo, Bonk, and PopCat. And one of the reasons I pick PopCat is because of this level here. And so what we can look at here is we can see, like, with this level right here in particular, you have your level of resistance here. So this is your bottom side. This is the resistance. You had sort of a breakthrough, not quite breaking the trend here, but getting pretty close. And so one thing I like about this is you can set this up pretty good. Like for a basic textbook scenario, you can have your entry basically a little bit above the break, stop loss just below the resistance, or the order block, I should say. And if you're targeting the closing candle on the weekly, you have a very solid 11.5 R here for about 358%. Now that's pretty good, I think, right now. I think it's going to go a little bit higher than that. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, this is still under $2. It could go to 3, 4, 5. I do think that is a possibility. If you want to go by pre-parabolic trend line rules, which I'm not, it's not a guarantee. You're looking at just under $3 for about a 600% plus with about a 1920 R on that. So that's something to keep in mind. That if you want to be ambitious with that, that's where I would go. But I quite like this. Another thing I want to mention, we have a high bullish cross. We have a 74%, 75%. So that's pretty good overall. And so what tends, and one of the reasons I point this out is because, one, the higher the number, the more impact that cross is going to be, for two reasons. One, because of the placement on it, it shows the strength. The higher the number, the more the strength. This is not like RSI necessarily, where you can kind of pinpoint an ebb and flow to the momentum. This is where the higher the better. This shows that there's high activity here, and that's a pretty good thing. The second reason is that the bear cross actually crosses at the same marker here. And so what that does is, if it continues to go downward, and even if they both go downward, that's going to lead to a thinner consolidation. That means, the bears won't be able to drag this down as much. So this looks really trendy here to me. The bulls are going to have both the trend and momentum here, in my opinion. Right now, they have the trend. They need to get above the RSI 50 to maintain the momentum. We're at 47, or reclaim the momentum, I should say. We're at 47%. We haven't gone above 50, haven't been above 50 since early December. So I really would keep this on your watch list. I think PopCat is really, really good here. Let's go ahead and go next to MOG. Now, actually, I want to go back to PopCat to look at this from a daily perspective just quickly, so I do apologize. You do have sort of a consolidation block here that kind of leads into what I'm talking about. Okay, and so that's This is that zone here. If we can break above that, that's really good. You can actually enter another long position if you wanted to. For me, for my Aaron band, I'd put that just under that zone, and then you could operate as accordingly. If you want to go to like $1, let's say, you have a pretty solid 6.72 R on that, and 20% still pretty good. If you wanted to like do a long-term spot with that, you're actually going to significantly increase your R value about 17.6, okay, and still get that 360+% or roughly around there. So I think this all looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and go to MOG now. I'm going to focus on the weekly. I'll try to cover weeklies if I can. That wasn't intentional when I started the video, but we can cover it. So we do have a push against this bearish trend band. We do have a bullish wedge to try to focus on the break here. And so the bears don't have momentum here. The bulls are looking pretty good. Ideally, you want to get across up above the 82, almost the 8,300 sat mark. So we'll see if we can get that. No momentum here, just not yet. It's too early to see how MOG is going to perform, and this is why I know MOG had a lot of social footprint, and this is why I'm not really a big social footprint kind of guy as far as looking at things like this and the SPX 6900, for example, things that have like an overwhelming or almost like unnatural or marketed social support. Does give me some skepticism, mainly because, well, one, for two reasons. One, I have a lot of experience with trading as far as it fades, and I'll get to that back in a second. But the other one really is the one I should have mentioned first, is that I do have experience. I do have a regular business in the social media world, where I deal with non-crypto accounts, and this is something that feels manufactured, or a bandwagon, and that tends to screw with the algorithm a little bit. And so one thing that I know from my business from the social standpoint is that if you try to make not necessarily a viral post, but if you try to create a post to attract those people, you actually get less views. You get more engagement, but you get less views. So you get a higher engagement percentage, but the impressions are going to be lower. So let's say you're used to getting something with 20,000 impressions. This may only get you 5,000 impressions. This will give you about 75% less impressions, but it'll give you more likes. Now, the problem is nowadays, likes don't really matter. Impressions is what matters. It doesn't matter. I can tell you right now, your likes don't matter. Your reposts don't matter. Your replies kind of matter somewhat. It depends on the platform. But really, the impressions are what matters. That's how X operates now. That's how YouTube monetizes. That's how TikTok monetizes and has the reach. And that's all the focus. So just because you can get 200 likes, and I've helped some crypto protocols do this. Some big names I can't really even mention here, where within 5 minutes I can get 200 likes. But you get like 200 views, and like so the ratio is higher. That's actually a bad thing. That's not a good thing, because the reach doesn't go as farther. And so what X will do now, or some other platform maybe, the algorithm understands that this is more of not necessarily a botted thing, but this is more of a farming type of tweet, right? And so anyway, long story, so I apologize, but that's how I felt about MOG this whole time. A lot of things like MOG and Barachain, things like that. I don't think, I think Monad might be one of them, but I don't really, they're not false. I mean, there's real people doing real campaigns, and I know there's real people doing real campaigns on them. So this is not a diss, but what tends to happen, going back to the first part of this, is that once you have a social footprint like this, it tends to also fade faster. And you can see this very easily. Back in early December, like we topped out here, much like we topped out a lot of other coins, but we went down like 92%, okay, and we've reclaimed a little bit above that. But this is a pretty big drop. This is probably one reason why a lot of people thought we capitulated. I strongly disagree that we did. I don't think we did. But when you have coins like this where people are just socially going nuts over this, you're going to get this reaction. The more randoms you get, the more airdrops you get, things like that, the more there's not going to be a demand. There's only going to be a supply. Okay, and so you're going to end up fading things like this. And so I say all this to say, I think this is going to be a hard bargain to go up. I'm not a big fan of MOG here, although we do have a good run up here. Maybe I can focus on the 12-hour. You do have a good break right here, and so this is a possibility. You do have an A-rune push above the trend, which is good. So if you did want to make a position, you could do something at current stop loss here, and then you could target right around at the top of this for about 2R. I think that that's okay for now. I don't want to go any higher than that mainly because there's not much of a level right here. I would actually prefer to wait until you get a push above this and then readjust along. And then your target would be whatever the target would be. So we'll see how that goes. It's up 7-8%, so maybe there's a recovery. I hope that there is. I don't have anything against MOG, and I hope it does well, but that's just my personal analysis. I wanted to give that extra idea about the social footprint because I think that does matter. That's one reason why I think Bonk, which we'll get to in a second, as much as I like Bonk, I think does have some issues. I think one of the reasons it had some overperformance and fades is because of people like Bonk Guy, and so we'll get into that at the Bonk section. Let's go ahead and go to Mew. Now Mew is a very similar situation to MOG, but it's actually already got the drop down. It doesn't have the follow through on this, and so I really don't like Mew that much. I think it's one of those kind of like forgotten coins a little bit. There's a little bit of an outlier like so. Kind of resisted. It's getting pretty close to it. It's not even getting close to it. As soon as it gets to it, it kind of rejects here, and so that's something that I'm not a big fan of. I think this will continue to go down. If we, let's see, I think we're still ways away from it, so we'll see where that goes. I don't know really what this is going to be doing. I think this is more of a lack of just purchase or buying interest, things like that. So I'll move on, but this is not really very impressive to me. It's definitely rejecting quite nicely, so we'll see where it goes. The key region is going to be obviously the break above that at 0032, and so I can mark that out here. Very simple, right? Actually, I would probably do a little bit higher above the band. The band will probably change if we get there. And so this is a pretty big stop. So I'm going to do like a soft stop about 20%. And then tagging this resistance here. And this may not ever happen, so just keep that in mind. But this is what I would look at. I would wait for that reclaim and see if we can get that. So about 84%, 4.4R. Let's go ahead and go to Toshi. Now, Toshi's not giving me much to work with here. See if I can do something longer. I don't know if it's the same Toshi. Is it? Let me see here. Toshi. See, October, see, July. Maybe that's it. Sorry, guys. Should have been more prepared for this. So, it is it CoinX? 359. Well, that's very similar, so we will run with it. We will run with it. So if it's not, I apologize. It looks like it has a similar price point. So anyway, with the weekly here, you had your pretty big drop down here. You have some sort of a consolidation. The biggest key thing I can see right here is really just all of this, but more so just this stuff. I'm not going to actually do a fib block here. And so you have your retest. I consider this a deviation based off of the reclaim right here. Double reclaim, hit the mid, looking pretty good. I actually think this is going to fade here to about 27,000 sats right there, and I think that's pretty much easy to explain from there. I don't see any other significant move, things like that. I don't really like this formation. I guess I can look at that from the Coinbase side. It matches up pretty well. And so we'll see. So that's Toshi. Kind of a quick thing with that one. Now, Mew is looking very interesting here. I'm actually going to go to this chart. See if I can. It's very similar. Okay. All right. So let me see if I can go back. All right. I'm going to stay with. I'm going to do both, actually. Let's see. So, from a bullish standpoint, I actually like the push up above this. This looks like this is logarithmic, but it's not. And so, one thing I can see here, you have your push up, you have your bullish breaker here, but this is starting to actually push up also. And so, we could see another long here. And considering how young this coin is, I think that's also possible. Understand that that's a pretty tight stop. You probably don't have a lot of leverage available on this. And then I'm probably just going to go for an even 3 for now, or maybe just like 25%. So you have like a 3.4. I think that that's relatively good. And so we'll see where that goes. Now, I also want to look at this deck screener position because you have a little bit more of a history here. You have lots of volume here, and you have low volume here. And so this is one of the key things I want to look at because you had a lot of activity here where the price was going down, but the volume was really up. Now you have the volume going down with the price going up, and that's not necessarily good. So I wanted to give you the trading view one in case there's a bullish momentum, but I want to give you the deck screener in case there's a bearish one, because this is going to give us a better look on the bearish idea. Now there's going to be two things I'm going to look at. I'm going to combine them together. This is going to be the top of this level, bottom here, and so the retest structure from based off of this level is kind of where I can see us going. I can see us going back to about 15, 16 million. Not sure what the price point is on that, but I can see that rejecting that high. So I think as far as all the coins on the list, Miu is going to be probably the more of a gamble because I could see this going either way. So this is going to depend on your personal convictions if you want to play this coin or not. I think 72 million is a little bit high given the price, the price action. But it is still relatively new coin. It's about 6 months in, so just keep that in mind. That may float your boat, whatever. So let's go ahead and go to Cat, Simon's Cat here. Now with this one, go to the weekly, and this hasn't had a lot of follow through. So this is a good idea where I think despite the fact I have criticisms with social footprint coins, Simon's Cat also shows why the social footprint coins can actually benefit you. Because I haven't heard a lot about the Cat actually at all. And honestly, I think the ticker is a little bit too generic. I think some people don't even realize there is a coin called Cat. Weekly level here, not really impressive. You do have a bullish wedge, nothing, the RSI, all this is dull. Price action is pretty low on this. Actually, I'm going to go to Trading View to let me see if I have something I can work with here. Simon's Cat. Let me see here if we can. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I didn't really find anything to work with. I think I'm just going to leave with this. This is not very impressive at all. Kind of have the drop down with this. You had to kind of a reclaim drop down. I don't quite like this. I'm not going to give any options on this because I just don't think it's worth much early at all. We're going to look at Bongo now, I should say. It's up 7%. This is one I've talked about frequently on my Twitter account, so I do want to be cautious. I want to not be biased on this as much as possible. We do have our order block section right here where we had a deviation. Actually, somewhat of a Actually, we did have a divergence. And so it did play out. It dropped down. Now we got to see if this pushes up. So with the band here, this is my key region. So here's the band. I'm going to get rid of this one. So everything else doesn't really matter to me. Okay, if this climbs above here, stop loss is underneath it. And then I could target to the next leg, which is going to be about 4.7 cents. So you have a 12R position here at about, a little over 325%. So that's kind of what I'm working at. You do have a bearish wedge here, so we need to overcome that first. If we can do that, it's okay. We're at 57%. If we can get below 50, that's okay. That's probably good enough. So we'll see where that goes. Overall, there's nothing really much else for Bongo. I think it is, you have this big cup and handle. I think this is one of the more, I think, best R&R coins that we could look at as far as meme coins. And then Bonk, last but not least, we talked about this before. This is a position I've looked at. You know, I've had various discussions on this one. So with this, you had your double bottom here. This was a key region to get in. You had your push up, pretty textbook. You had a good reclaim here, or good retest. Now we're at the retest here, and so this is a valid trade if that's something that you're interested in. But I think Bonk does have a lot of potential here, and so we'll see where it goes. My fear about Bonk, however, is that there are going to be players that are going to try to rally people, and that's why like people like Bonk guy, like, which I'm fine with. I don't have any opinion on them personally, but this is where that social footprint changes drastically. You're going to get people that are interested in this, and it really just matters. It really just depends what's going on with those traders. Are they invested in this? Are they just retweeting for fun? Are they all botted? Are they looking to fade this to make, what's the approach, right? And one of the reasons I say that is because we actually dropped down pretty significantly on Bongo. From the top to the bottom, we did about 80%, which isn't as much as other ones like Mog, but it's still pretty high considering how much this has been. Okay, so I think for a coin like Bonk, it should not have gone down this low, and one of the reasons I say that is because this gave you a hint. This is a big, a 2-week long for 185%. That was too high. Not that you can't go too high, but when you go so aggressively like that, you should be able to expect a downtrend. And so I think the 85% was a bit drastic. So just keep that in mind. I think Bongo's too volatile in my opinion, and that's saying a lot for the crypto world. But we'll see. I like this position. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, that is the video. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.